Are you looking for a resource to discuss all topics air conditioning? Well, you're in the right space. Join the Rawson boys as they discuss the hot topics and the cold hard facts. This is the Air Conditioning Podcast.
G'day guys, and welcome to another edition of the Air Conditioning Podcast, where we talk about all things air conditioning, the hot topics and the cold hard facts, Brad.
Cold hard facts.
And it's been another wintry week in the south of Australia.
It's a cold week.
Yeah.
It's good for business. So
Plenty going on. Breakdowns, service calls,
getting some good installs.
Yeah.
Nice VRV job on the go with I think 30 indoor cassette units, which was quite good. That's a good one.
Good job.
Yeah, two-story building. Yeah. What did you do last night? I was watching the footy, but I think I fell asleep on the couch.
It's not like you, Brad.
Maybe with a beer in my hand.
11-10 Reds under your belt.
Yeah, that's it.
What was Essendon and Gold Coast last night?
Yeah, it's a draw apparently. So good game.
Yeah,
pretty
intense.
down the last kick.
But we might do a bit of a quick update on the old COVID front. Do that. So let's just look at that now. So globally, we are currently sitting at 20.4 million confirmed cases, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
12.6 million have recovered, and a staggering 745,000 deaths, Brad, which is just devastating.
Yeah.
Australia, 22,127 confirmed cases, 12,774 recovered, 352 deaths. No new cases in SA.
That's good.
Which is a positive thing. Victoria, on the other hand,
they've got like nearly 8,000 cases at the moment, which is
starting to, they've said they had 410, they had 429 cases in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that's actually starting to turn down a little bit. Yeah. So that's, we hope it keeps trending that way, I suppose. But it's Victorian stage 4 lockdown, so we feel your pain, guys. We're sorry to hear that. And New Zealand, they were over 100 days COVID-free, and then they had a cluster this week.
I reckon they may have come in on the transport with some with the goods.
Yeah, right.
Transport goods.
Not good at all. So, guys, don't forget to wash your hands, sanitise, socially distance, stay at home, wear a bloody mask. Don't be one of these tossers from Bunnings that, the anti-maskers.
Anti-maskers.
Look, it won't kill you to wear a mask.
That's exactly right.
But you might kill someone else if you don't.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That was not bad, actually.
I like that.
I could put that on a t-shirt, I reckon.
That's good.
Guys, we're really excited today. We've got another international guest, Brad.
Another international guest.
All the way from the US. They're actually based in Austin, Texas. It's a company called Interplay Learning. And they are a platform that has redefined hands-on training by embracing advanced technologies such as 3D simulation, virtual reality, and making learning exponentially faster and more powerful than the traditional methods. So joining us on the show today, guys, is the founder and CEO, Doug Donovan. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you on.
We appreciate you giving your time up, and it's 6:30 p.m. over there or thereabouts, so you're just winding your day up and we're just getting started. So, mate, exciting what you guys are doing over there. Can you tell us a bit more and share with our listeners what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So we're a education technology company, and our focus from our outset has been on technical hands-on workers. And frankly, if being totally honest, we just ripped off what the military, medical, and aviation industries were doing. Yeah. They found out that using simulation was a fantastic way to accelerate skill development, and we were surprised back when we started the company that nobody in the trades was leveraging it. It made some sense. It was expensive to develop, both content-wise and to deliver. But now we've built an online on-demand platform of technical learning, with HVAC being our largest catalog. We also have plumbing and electrical facility maintenance and some solar technician work as well. But if you're familiar with like a LinkedIn Learning or Pluralsight, there's a bunch of these on-demand online learning catalogs, but they're all for knowledge workers, right? Nobody has said, hey, what about the electrical, mechanical, industrial worker? So we've stood that up the last couple of years, and we sell it into service companies all across the U.S. and actually now getting outside of the U.S. as well, and sell it to the big manufacturers where they're trying to train people up and yeah, so it's a fun little company here we got.
Very exciting stuff.
Very good.
And so just unpack it a bit further, if you don't mind, Doug. So you literally are putting on a virtual reality mask, if you like, and or goggles, whatever you call them. And
yeah.
Talk us through that.
When we deliver the training, we deliver it on any device. So, there's only a portion used in the virtual reality, and that's kind of the sexy, shiny object everyone likes talking about. So we always start there. And but the reality is most of our use still is on tablets and desktops. And what it is point of view. What it looks like is a point of view video game. But, instead of killing the bad guys, you've got your multimeter and you're checking the transformer across the contactors or whatever it is. And so in VR, when you actually have the goggles on, that's a whole different world. I mean, you are in that basement, or you are at the outdoor unit, or you're at the rooftop unit. You feel like you're holding that digital manifold, and you're on your knees, and it's really an extraordinary experience. But it's really a portfolio delivery approach, because you guys, you're all over the place. You're in your vans, you're at distribution centers, you're on a roof, so you have to be able to access it on mobile devices as well. And so we have a single code base that drives all of that, so users come in all different ways.
All you need is to do it in a sauna, and it'll be like the real thing.
Yeah, that's right. We get asked that a lot. You can imagine. I mean, they're like, "Can you shock people? Can you, put on a heat suit?" And we're not that far away from that. There is actually, you can imagine, especially with the genesis coming from military and a lot of things. There's a thing called the Tesla suit, unrelated to the famous Tesla company, but it mimics punches and bullets and heat, and so it's not crazy. In the next decade, you might put on one of those.
Crazy.
I don't know. We get asked, like, do you have any deadly spiders crawling out of things? Do you have any so we do gamify it. We bring some fun to it, because it's the new learner wants that. They want to be engaged and stimulated, and we always have grand visions of these big blasts, but the reality is budgets always curtail that. We end up with some good stuff, but we're not quite it's not quite ready, not quite like what's the game, Fortnite. Yeah, not quite Fortnite yet.
So you reckon that the 4D experience might be on the cards at some point?
That's right, absolutely.
We could have all these 10-year-old mechanics wandering around the place.
Hey, it's not crazy. I mean, I imagine we'll talk about this. I don't think you guys face quite the skills gap that we have in the U.S. in terms of these trades. Really, I mean, it's a travesty. There's all these great careers and all these unemployed people, and they can't seem to make the world, bridge that. And that's hopefully what we offer. But I say all earnestly that someone will learn to become an HVAC tech on a game, controller in their living room at some point. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't replace the hands-on time with a mentor and all of that. Absolutely has to happen, and we just but we want to be a part of that. But you can, that day is not far off at all.
That's amazing.
So I imagine that I'm just trying to imagine what you'd be seeing, and with virtual reality, there's got to be those elements where you have to pick up a tool or do something. What happens there? Is it just like your virtual hands picking up air, or is he actually picking up an object?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the high-end devices is which we use, and I say high-end, they're only $300 now, but not the like slide-in stuff like use your cell phone, slide it in a box of, a cardboard box, not that. But the real stuff, what's called 6 degrees of freedom, meaning you can move in all directions, and full hand tracking, so you see your hands. You actually have controllers in your hands, and people have said, oh, there's gloves coming, and there are gloves available, but we're not that interested in that. The controllers are actually better for us because of the tools. Like, you have a controller, your eyes see whatever that is. Is it a manifold? Is it a multimeter? And that controller provides the weight. So you're convinced it's there. Your brain, the thing about the VR, once you've tried it, and it's a joy of my life now to give people that first time experience, because it just blows their mind, right? Especially experts, tradespeople, when they see their own stuff, like, this is a real heat pump and this multimeter actually works. And, when they see their real stuff. So you're holding that tool. Your brain doesn't know how to be in two places. So you might be sitting in, the room you're sitting in now, but when you put that headset on and you grab those controllers and you see your hands, and you have these floating hands out there. When you grab a device, or, in certain ones, you sort of pop the device in their hand, you think it's there. Your brain doesn't know how to differentiate. And it's not photorealistic, but your brain doesn't care. Once you're in there and you see your hands moving, you're pretty much there. So I love watching technicians go through it, fix something, faulty thermistor or something, and then take off their headset and look at me and just go, holy cow, that was incredible.
That was cool.
That's awesome.
So do you guys, so do you have brand specific software? So for the manufacturers?
Yeah, great question. So what we do is online, we have a big general agnostic learning, right? Like, fundamentally, a lot of times, they're kind of donkey systems where if you're an expert, you might be like, that was clearly a train coil or AOC board or whatever. But we'll put together, just like you would in a trade school, in a book, you try to sort of anonymize it a little bit. And so you learn the fundamentals. And that sits in the general catalog. But then we have deals with all the bigs, Carrier, Rheem, Ruud, Goodman, Daikin, Amana, right down the line, JCI, GRE. And we'll do specific builds for them. And often builds is what we call for developing a simulation. So, and they'll often serve it inside of their community of learners, right? Like, if you're an authorized dealer for Carrier, you're probably going to what they call My Learning Center, which is put on by Carrier. And now there's our general training that they white label, and then specific stuff only those learners can see inside of that sort of community. So you might do a general heat pump training, and then you might do the Infinity VSR Carrier heat pump, right? Specific with those specific diagnostic codes, et cetera, to that exact unit. So we do both.
That's cool.
Wow. And you'd imagine that with all the models that are constantly changing, and I mean, generally the basics are there, but models can change from brand to brand as well. So I imagine that'd be a logistical nightmare trying to keep up to date with all that stuff, wouldn't it?
Well, for us, we have I won't get too nerdy about it, but we have a single code base that runs every single simulation. And the content is actually different than the code, meaning the code that tells you how to pick up a multimeter is separate than what you're actually picking up, right? And so for us to change things on that last layer is actually pretty easy. And that's one of the things. It's not like, you film a movie. Let's say we did a video training out in the field with you guys, and, we edit it up and it's a wrap, right? And they say it's a wrap for a reason. You're not going back in and changing anything. Well, for us, we change lines of code, or we change out art, or, it's no longer diagnostic code 37. The numbers have changed and we got to go in and make edits. But that's actually considerably easier than in, most ways you're trying to train on this type of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And your team, mate, looking at your website, they have lots of huge amounts of experience and vast sort of backgrounds. I noticed that your Chief Technology Officer, Rogan Griffin, he previously worked for Pixar Animation. So has that he's brought those skills to what you do?
Exactly.
That's a handy person to have, I would have thought.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And when he joined the company, I mean, we were we were kind of a professional services style shop for 6 years, but really the company we're talking about now started in 2016 when we saw this big gaping hole in the market for this need, this training. And if we were going to do it, we had to do it in a scalable fashion, right? Those professional services days, every simulation was independent. And I mentioned that single code base. So he's the one who came in and he was working on scaling animation at Pixar. And that was his job. He was in that department and leading that effort. And they were doing it because Pixar was getting their ass handed to them by these smaller studios who were building things way faster. Yeah. And so they said, how do we build faster? And so when he came over, he already had the vision of this is how you scale this type of thing. And so, he's been critical to building the authoring engine. We call it VOLT, which stands for Vocational Online Learning Technology, but that was really his brainchild that got this thing going.
Yeah.
And you guys are, we're not seeing it as much here in terms of the skills gap. You're seeing that a lot over in the US with the baby boomers are starting to retire, and
that's right. It's massive, and it's it's a shame because like my generation in the US, there's 33 million of us. The baby boomers, there's 70 plus. So already we're at a huge disadvantage numbers wise. And my generation in the 80s, right? You were told you go to get a 4-year degree and you become a lawyer, and there was sort of this stigma around, oh, don't work with your hands. That's sort of that's the old way. And so there's big movement to that. So you just had this huge gap where nobody was entering these, or very few people were entering these trades. And it's a shame now because then you lost a lot of vocational programs, a lot of the apprenticeship stuff started going away, numbers really dropped. And now you have, 2 decades later, you've got this huge gap and you don't have an infrastructure to really accelerate, stand it up again.
Yeah.
And frankly, for us, that's a big opportunity, as you can imagine, right? Because we can step in pretty quickly and help stand that up. So it's, it's part of what the business opportunity was when we pursued it. But it's fun now to be a part of that solution because these are such rewarding careers that, where the narrative has changed now a little bit. Yep. It's going to take some time, but there is a real interest now looking at these again, especially as a lot of these 20-somethings are in these gig jobs that just are not a career, right? And that don't have the growth potential. I mean, you can go from, $17 an hour up to running, a 50-person company, right? I mean, the sky's the limit with these careers, and, driving Uber and working, retail, like there's just not, you don't have that career growth, like it's not as clear. So it's fun to be a part of that and be able to support that. Our company, we say a lot, like mission driven around better careers mean better lives. And that really, it makes it easy to show up here every day when we know we're seeing that. We hear it from our customers. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've not seen that. We haven't seen that here, have we?
No.
It's kind of
In fact, it's gone almost the other way.
Yeah.
Where they sort of watered down the licensing and so forth. So it brought all of the lots of other trades into our trade, and not necessarily they haven't been trained the right way. So it's not an ideal world when that happens, but so it's probably the opposite problem to what you've got.
We have a lot of what do they call it, regulatory capture, where the barriers are too high, and every state it's like this patchwork of certification. You need this license in this state, but you need a different license in this state, and if there's going to be a national response to this skills gap, somebody would have to address that. I don't see that happening. We can't seem to have a political discourse of any value here, but that was something that we'd have to tackle for sure.
For sure.
And have you guys got any plans of moving outside of the US, or are you outside of the US already?
Yeah, definitely. So we've just started globalizing the platform, or building editors to globalize it rather. And we'll start with, Spanish. We have like Spanish subtitles in the US. You can imagine a lot of workers in these trades are Spanish speakers. And so we'll start with that. So, And yeah, we have conversations going on with the country of South Africa. We have some folks in Australia. GSES is licensing our solar training. And, we put that deal together a year ago or so. We haven't quite done much with them yet, but at some point, I see something there happening. Obviously, with the HVAC stuff, we got to look at not just, the language is nice because there's only small marginal differences. But we do have to, we got to look at voltage and things that are different, right? Standards, and we'll have to look at that. So there'll be a little work around that. But what we do travels, right? Because it's mostly visual, or it's, the guts of it's visual. And there's certain things I remember when we were talking with the folks in Australia about the roof types we represented. Hey, we don't have any roofs like that. Like, we'd have to look at some different roof types.
Right.
So there's some art things you have to do. But I know Australia is kind of the exception to the rule, but I think the last couple surveys I've seen for 6 years running globally, skilled trades is the hardest job to fill. And you can imagine the growing economies in China and India and elsewhere. And we intend to be global.
That's awesome.
With your courses, are you actually taking apprentices all the way through, or are you more of a complementary sort of course?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'd say we start at the latter, right? Like the product was really intended, say, for, your company to bring on younger techs and have kind of a mini apprenticeship program in a box, right? Good foundational training. They're still job shadowing. They're still doing all the other things, but maybe they're getting on there for an hour and a half every, 2 days and doing some either scenario stuff that we talked about, maybe watching some more fundamental videos, filling it in, so that we go to market as a low price SaaS. I mean, it's $300 a seat. We'll have companies, Bob's Heating and Air, we'll have 12 seats, and they'll have some of the younger techs on it. Occasionally we'll have some seasoned techs in there playing around, and they appreciate it. They'll say, hey, I haven't seen a fault like, misaligned thermistor in 5 years. So it's kind of fun for me too, to practice my trade. But primarily with the content we have today, it tends to be, let's say, 5 years and less on the job is really where it's most valuable. Now, we are standing up a program we call the Pathways product, which is more of almost like a coding boot camp for HVAC, right? So if you really go through this content, there's, a couple hundred hours of content if you do all the sims. You should really be job ready to be a really qualified helper, right? Like, you should know all the tools. You should really know the refrigeration cycle, basic diagnostic and preventative maintenance, but you haven't spent a lot of time in the field. But again, that whole idea, as we talked about earlier, is condense the learning time. Can you make somebody sort of an economic value to your company in 3 months instead of 18 months, right? That's kind of our goal.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and with this style of learning, is it necessary to go to a particular venue or workshop, or is it something that it can be done from, your office or your living room, for example?
Yeah, it's all online. So people do it from, anywhere. They have to have a web connection because it is server based. So you could be on a bus, and if you got connection, you could be watching a video or doing a sim or whatever. So you do it anywhere. Now, with virtual reality, we're sort of in the early, we're in inning 1, which is a term in the US. It's like, what do you guys call what's the first inning in cricket? Is it an inning?
Oh, innings, yeah, that's
innings,
right.
We're in inning 1. Shorter game. So we're just at the beginning with VR, so you don't have headsets everywhere. So it tends to be like training centers that have bought a couple setups, and so they're using it to augment their lab. Or some of the larger service companies will have, a training area, and they'll have a setup. We do have some, progressive users, folks who say, I bought it for gaming, and I'm using it for training in my living room. So we do get that too. The device cost has dropped precipitously, and COVID aside, because there's, handing devices off is obviously a bit of a challenge at this point. So we've actually seen a slowdown. I mean, we were flying. I think we stood up 85 VR training centers for Carrier across their distribution network into February, and then it's just nobody's touching that stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like nobody's going to those places. So fortunately for us, we do the online delivery without the headsets. If this was a pure virtual reality story, we would have a very different conversation now, which with me saying like, oh, I've cut 90% of my staff, and because the VR stuff is still a little communal.
Mm-hmm.
And someday it won't be, right? Someday you will have a $300 headset that you're going to pop on and do what you need to do on it. But right now it's still communal. So fortunately for us, because of our online delivery, our business is actually really accelerated. As you can imagine, distance learning in a pandemic is, it's pretty active right now.
Everyone's sitting at home. Well, the guys that are sitting at home, if they are, they could be doing some training.
Exactly right. Yep, that's
great.
big. I mean, our business was up like 400% March through today. I mean, it's just flying. Anybody who's on the fence about technical training, online simulations, right? Because there's some folks who are going to say, you can't learn like that. You got to be on the job. And, I respect that. But although I can show you science that tell them otherwise. But we got plenty of companies who said, look, I'm keeping my guys on staff, but they're all sitting at home. I want to make that time productive. And so, we've seen a lot of usage as well. Not only, better sales, but better usage. And that's because people are trapped and they need to spend their time doing something productive.
Exactly. What sort of costs are we looking at for an online course, I suppose? A subject.
Yeah, we actually don't. We make it. You get access to everything. There is no you pay for this course or you one off it. And it's the ballpark is $300. That's sort of the peak retail price. $300 a year to access all that content. Yeah, it's kind of frighteningly cheap.
Yeah.
And the intent there is we want to be your lifelong learning platform. Like I want to keep you for $20 a month, whatever, forever, to be like, I went in and learned some electrical too. And, cool. I'm on HVAC tech, but they have this good solar stuff. I'm thinking about putting some, a battery in, and I'm going to use Interplay for that as well. And, the goal is, like I told you, we have 5 or 6 domains now, but there's no reason that won't continue to grow. So that's our approach.
Yeah. Exceptional opportunities, as you say, right now with COVID and all that, people buying, some awesome stuff going on there. I'm interested to know how it's received from perhaps the older generation. Let's say the guys have been in the game for a long time. How are they sort of accepting it?
We've gotten let's just say mixed reviews sometimes from So we actually started in energy auditing. That's where we started. It's in beachhead niche market where I won't give you the background, but we ended up there. And now every energy auditor in this country, as we tighten houses, well, you guys know combustion safety could be an issue, and so it's really teaching combustion safety procedure. And so we did a deal with a big organization here who certifies in that industry, and they had really varied performance in their certification, let's say. So they said, we want everyone to do this field test equivalent, which was the video game, or the quote effing video game, as some of the older generation would call me and say, I need to do this, my job I've been doing 20 years, now I have to do a video game to show you what I'm doing. So we did get a little resistance there. So there's a part of the population who are never really going to accept it. But I will say the bulk of it actually was friction out of the gate. The moment they got in there and did a couple scenarios, that was fun. Like we could change the variables changed, whatever. We had a depressurization because of the fireplace, and I got to see that. And so I think they appreciate the power of what simulation and scenario-based learning can do by changing out variables. I mean, there's a reason the military, medical, and aviation industry used it, right? It's just when you get practice, you change things up, and off you go.
And as you said before, Doug, it's not going to obviously replace the hands-on technical stuff, but it does complement that. So imagine someone's done a course. What do they get at the end of that? Some sort of certification?
Well, again, in this country, every state has different rules on what you need to do. I mean, in the Southeast, pretty much you can hang up a shingle and say, I'm an HVAC tech. Like, you don't really need a whole lot. And then in the Northeast, like where the old, where the unions dominated for years, there's a lot more regulation. So what we try to do is just like any trade school, at the end of it, you're going to have a certification from us. And then we'll have prepped you for the three major exams, right? One's an EPA, the 608, which is the refrigerant, exam that you have to take to touch refrigerants in this country. And then we partner with the big personnel certification organization in this country called NATE, National Association of Technical Excellence. I got that mostly right. But that's what a quality HVAC person, one of the things they'll hang out is their NATE certification.
Sure.
And then you should be prepped. If there are any license exams in your state, you should be prepped for those, right? So we don't do the test out, if you will. We look at the third-party organizations to do that, but you're certainly going to be prepared.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. You mentioned Skill Mill on your website. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, that's the name of the product of that catalog. We call it Skill Mill.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. That's the I mentioned earlier, Volt. That's the authoring engine that you don't see, nobody sees. That's sort of our secret sauce, is how we build these things at high pace. Because to do a catalog the size we're talking about and what we've gotten to already is you have to have that, but the customer only sees Skill Mill,
right?
Where they're in there buying where they're accessing the catalog content.
Yep. And gamification obviously plays a part in this, Doug. Just can you unpack that a bit more for us?
Yeah. So we do it in a couple ways. One, obviously, just by definition, the simulations feel and look a little bit like a video game. So there's sort of the gamified impact there. We try to give, when you fix the right, let's say you change out the transformer and that was the right thing to do. There's, a little activity lets you know you did it right. So there's some emotional reward there. But everything's tracked. And so that's great for a couple of things. One, the service manager knows exactly, hey, Bob's doing great. Sally's kicking ass, but Willie's falling behind, right? Because I can see on a dashboard who's doing what. Also, there's leaderboards. So if you want to set up a company leaderboard, some of the larger companies do that with cohorts of learners, and and there's even a national leaderboard. And so that's kind of fun to watch. And so, we have an online certificate too when you complete a course, et cetera. So we gamify it that way, really for engagement, motivation. And there's even more to come there. So that's going to be the fun part.
I reckon I'm going to start gaming.
Nice. Good to hear. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, for sure.
And you guys are obviously pioneers of this field. Where do you see it heading to in years to come?
I think you guys are a little more advanced than us in the sense that our setup here in this country tends to be like school, work. And, you sort of stop. And I'm a big believer that, especially post high school, with the price of college and all these other things, like, I think you're going to see more earn and learn style models, right? Like, go work, whether it's in the HVAC industry or even computer coding. Go start working. And because of the online easy access, and heck, COVID sort of accelerated a lot of this, right? Geez, I don't need to take 4 years off and pay, $250,000 to go learn for 4 years and then get a job. Like, I can go get a job now and learn. And so I think we'll set up, we'll set up well in that world, right? So that's why I said to you, 10 minutes ago, I want to be your lifelong learning platform, right? I want you to feel like, we've curated it, it's well done, it's correct, and the content just keeps growing and growing. So every time you come in, you're like, oh, there's the new inverter technology that we've been hearing's coming, and now I'm going to get trained up on it because I haven't been yet, right? So, I think that's our long-term play, is that I think we're playing that macro trend that education, we're all sort of lifelong learners now, and we have easy access to it. And for those who are enterprising enough, who want to continue to grow, like, you got to have that culture of learning in your workplace, and we want to support that. And so, yeah, that's the vision we see.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, look, I think that's
we're just about covered everything.
Pretty much, and we're running out of time, unfortunately. We could talk about this all day because it's fascinating stuff.
Yes,
it's something that I wasn't aware of until you reached out to us, and I'm glad you did, because it's going to change the face of learning, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
And I can't wait till it comes here. You'll keep us
it's only going
to
grow as people get to know about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you should see us there in 2021. I mean, like I said, we're doing all the editors now. And we're getting pulled in a lot of directions, as you can imagine. COVID was a huge catalyst for us. Anybody who was thinking about it put a call into us. And right now, knock on wood, we're kind of alone doing it and got a pretty good head start. So if we keep executing, we should have a presence in Australia in the not too distant future.
Well, that's great, and we look forward to that. One more question for you, Doug. What's your proudest moment that you've had since the inception of Interplay Learning?
Oh, I think it's got to be, we were virtual for a number of years, right? We found these coders around the country. Actually, we had 2 in England, and getting them all together after we had all worked, a lot of us had worked together for 2.5 years, right? Just like we're talking on Zoom, everyone knew what everyone looked like basically from the nipples up, but knew other than that. And just seeing everyone get together and seeing the friendships that were so real already, even though these people hadn't met. I mean, some of these coworkers, they go on trips together, and that was special that you create that new group that didn't exist. And if we didn't stand up this company, that relationship doesn't exist. So watching those 3 days at we called it the Global Summit, it was a special moment, because it just sort of brought the personal side of this. For sure. Yeah.
Great stuff.
That's cool.
Great stuff. All right. Well, again, we look forward to seeing you guys here in Australia. So can't happen soon enough. But I reckon it's time, Brad. I think we should jump into the next round, which is the fun bit, Doug, which is called Keeping It Cool on the Hot Seat. You ready for this?
I think so. We'll see.
All right. Let's go.
Are you drinking a stout there, or what is that?
It's a Guinness. That's all right, right?
Nice.
It's 6:30. It's 6:30 here.
Chef, I could handle one right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Brad's often having brekkie beers.
only on a long weekend.
All right, here we go, guys. So keeping it cool on the hot seat round, and Brad's eager to
press that button.
get the clock started. So if you wouldn't mind doing the honours, Brad.
Okay, and the time starts now.
All right. If you were to write an autobiography, what would your title be?
Humility.
Nice. If you could be a superhero, Doug, who would you be?
Oh, Aquaman. Easy.
Aquaman.
Yeah.
You like the water?
So cool. You can talk to the animals, rally them up. It's amazing.
You thought about that a lot,
Sure. It's my password. Should I say that on a podcast? I use it
probably not. That's all right. No one's listening. It's okay. If a song described your work ethic, what song would that be?
You can't always get what you want.
Nice. I like that. If you're a brand, what would your motto be?
Oh, geez. Just show up.
Cool.
Just show up. I say that to all people. Even if you're gonna screw up, who cares? Just show up.
100%. If you could sit with one celebrity or famous person for a chat, who would that person be?
Right now, definitely Bill Gates. Not only the technical background, but his command of this infectious disease. Like he's a special.
That's right.
He's a special human. Yeah.
Great stuff. When you go on vacation, Doug, what's the first thing that you pack?
Oh, the first thing that I pack. Well, if it's a vacation that I get to choose and not my wife, I go get my ski boots.
And then the Guinness.
That's right. That's right.
If Hollywood made a movie about your life, who would you want to play the lead role?
This will be a weird one, maybe. Michael Keaton. I think that guy's a genius comedic actor. He's got a cool way. Yeah, it's not a popular one, but I've always loved Michael Keaton's work.
That's good. You're doing
you look at me, I'm kind of rougher around the edges, like Kim. I'm, not classically good looking. I mean, nobody would buy the Brad Pitt, George Clooney thing.
Yeah, that's right.
If you could have one meal for the rest of your life, Doug, what would that be?
Probably chicken parmesan.
Oh, I'll second that motion. Using a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself on your weirdness.
My weirdness, probably a 4. Depending on who you ask. My wife thinks I'm a 8.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, geez. I mean,
these are hard.
Yeah, that 3 words is hard. I'm going to actually go back to my motto: just shows up. Right? Like I believe that for friends and life, and I just show up. I may not have the answer, but I'll be standing there trying to figure it out with you.
Tick. Name one thing that everyone looks weird doing.
Well, I'll say virtual reality the first couple times. They look a little, until you're used to it, it does look like, because they're behaving in a world that you can't see. Yeah. So it looks weird from the outside.
Almost need a harness.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you ever had a sick day when you weren't really sick, Doug?
Oh, sure, yeah, but not in this job. This is
right,
different. Yeah, but yeah, plenty.
The previous life.
Nice.
That's right.
And finally, Doug, your porn star name.
Porn star. I mean, it's got to be Sticky Wicket.
Do you like cricket?
Well, I like it enough, but that term just sticks in your head and just says so much.
Yeah, that's
conjures up so many thoughts. It just.
Yeah. I'm not even going to comment on it.
No, of course you don't, Brad.
I might incriminate myself.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's all good, mate. You got through that, so well done.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, guys. This was fun. Yeah, I hope none of my employees listen to that last part.
Mate, we just want to say thank you for coming on. And Doug, if people want to get in touch and check you guys out, where can they find you?
Best is interplaylearning.com. INTER play learning. Interplaylearning.com. Yeah, it's all there.
Brilliant, mate. And as per usual, we'll put a link to that in our show notes so people can find you there as well. Sure, yeah. But, mate, thank you again.
Fantastic, guys. Enjoyed it. Look forward to being able to put a headset on you here one of these days and, and see if your skills are really what you represent.
If we ever get to come over there, we'll come and see you.
Yeah.
All right. You're welcome.
One day.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right, guys.
All right.
Well,
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate you stopping by and checking out the episodes. And check us out on airconditioningpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, LinkedIn.
All of those.
The whole gamut, you know where to find us. But
and leave a what do you call it? A
review.
A review. That's right.
A review would be nice. Again, can't emphasise that enough because that helps with our discoverability, Brad.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what this podcast is about: is getting the message out there and creating the discussion. So let's get the reviews going, guys. We would very much appreciate that. Also, I just wanted to say thank you to our loyal listeners. They're bloody legends, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep.
Because with your downloads, your reviews, we actually hit a milestone this week, Brad.
Did we?
In the top 250 Apple podcasts under How To, we ranked at number 10.
No way.
Ta-da!
That's amazing.
That's good, isn't it?
There you go.
So there you go. So that's how important they are, mate. Keep them coming, and until the next episode, Brad.
Arrivederci.
Good night, guys.
That's all for this episode of the Air Conditioning Podcast. Be sure to stop by at airconditioningpodcast.com to connect with us, as well as on Facebook and Twitter, and join in the conversation. Until next time, stay tuned, stay positive, and stay cool.